Hi there everyone, this is the Vintage Sewing Machine Garage and I am bringing or creating a new video today as part of the Rotary series. I've had, as I think I've mentioned before, many people will contact me and they have one of these rotary machines. This is my white rotary model 77. Many of you may have something called a Franklin rotary, a Dressmaster rotary, a domestic rotary, or very often you'll have a Kenmore rotary. They were all made by the same company if it's this particular layout and design, although the body style might change a little bit. Sometimes the colors are slightly different, but almost all of them have this hammered or textured finish as opposed to the lacquers that were more common on other brands. Now, this machine, and I'll talk more about it when I do the restoration on my particular model. I bought this. I've restored these machines before, and I consider these to be one of the most underappreciated sewing machines out there. And very often, people will get them, and then they're a little confused on how to use them. And part of the reason for that is because they have threading that works a little differently than some of the other machines. It's not difficult. In fact, you have thread guides and you have take-up arms and check springs just like you do on any other sewing machine. But this design, remember, this was a company that was competing heavily with Singer. The White Company was huge. It was a massive industrial complex based in Cleveland, Ohio, once upon a time, and this brand was made in many numbers for many years. And so if you have the manual to your machine, that's great. Use that as a guide. If you don't, you can get one. Having a manual is always useful, but the illustrations on how to thread these machines in the manuals are not quite as well done as they are in the Singers. And so this is one of the most requested things I get from people is, how do I thread my machine? Because if you can thread the machine and get the bobbin case threaded, you're a good ways towards getting your machine set up. And of course, you're looking at the back side of this machine. And yes, it is a white model, but it has a motor that says Dressmaster. I suspect that this machine was probably made 1946-47. That would be right after the war. And because this riveted plate on the side of the motor says Dressmaster, keep in mind that right after the Second World War ended, you had a scramble because the war ended very quickly or suddenly, unexpectedly for many people. They thought it would last longer. And so a lot of companies were scrambling to get back into manufacturing consumer products because people were really hungry to buy things they had not been able to buy either during the war or during the Depression. So don't let the fact that it says Dressmaster fool you. It's also possible that this motor in the same color might have been a replacement at some point in the machine's history, and maybe the dealer had a Dressmaster branded motor on hand, and that's why they used it. I don't know for sure. But anyway, it's completely compatible. All these motors were made essentially by the same company, and it's funny because it says White Sewing Machine Corporation, USA, then it says Dressmaster. So again, in this case, the name Dressmaster is not an issue. But let's talk about threading. And the reason you're looking at the back side of the machine is because I needed to turn it around. I wanted the side where you do a lot of your threading to be facing the window. I really wanted some nice natural light here for you guys so you could see what it is that I'm doing. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a view from the side here, and I've got white thread on a dark colored machine. I hope it will show up, and I've got sort of a tan background on the fabric there. Let's see what we can do. First I'm going to zoom in, and we're going to start. We've got some thread. That's some old thread that came with the machine, and I'll be changing that when I get ready to test the machine and make sure it's all ready once I've restored it. But I'm going to, let's see if we can focus in and zoom. And let's get our angle back where it needs to be. Okay. Now, this is just going to be the first, bear with me here folks while I shift the camera just a bit. Okay, I think I got things sort of where I want them. Now, I'm going to start out showing you what it looks like from the side, from the back, and then I'm going to switch the view to the side, because once you can see this done and you do it, it'll be second nature to you. Contrary to what some people will say, these machines are not difficult to thread. They're just difficult if you have a manual that doesn't illustrate it well. And the White Company did a lot of awesome things, but their manuals were not particularly one of them, in my opinion. But be that as it may, these machines are diamonds in the rough, and they are incredible. And to not use your rotary machine because you can't thread it is just a shame, because I consider them, they have a gorgeous stitch, they're strong, they're powerful, and they are truly heirloom quality legacy machines. So let's get them running. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to bring the thread off of the spool, which you see over on your left, and I'm going to come over here. And I got a dark background here, or I tried to. Let's see what we've got here. All right. I'm going to bring the thread, I've got it in two hands here, and I'm going to bring it toward me like this. If you can, let's pull it against the machine. And all of a sudden, it is now on the first thread guide. The way thread guides are set up, they look like they surround the machine. And so at the top here, you will see a chrome or nickel plated piece, and it curls around sort of like this, but then it has a little bit of a gap. If you pretend my finger is a magnified version of that, bear with me. And so as you pull your thread around, it comes in that little narrow space between the edge of the thread guide and the body of the machine, and then that sort of holds it because it's kind of a U-shaped thread guide. Okay, so it's a kind of a happy place for the thread to reside. If I wanted to take it out, I could just simply come back underneath, and I've taken it off. So again, we're going to come here, pull toward toward the back of the machine, while hoping to maintain and keep the thread on the spool pin. There we go. Okay, so now you've got the first thread guide. Now what do we do? Well, I'm going to move the camera because I want to now take you to the side of the machine, and that's going to make a lot more sense when you see the thread patterning as it was designed by White. Okay, folks, so now you can see I've moved the camera a bit, and this is what you were seeing originally from the back side here. And here, I'll actually pull this out again and show you, maybe this is another way to describe it. So we've got the thread, it's coming off, and it comes over the side edge here, and you want to pull, boom, and you can even hear it. Maybe you heard the little clink as the thread came up into the guide. So there is a gap between the thread guide and the body of the machine, the side plate here, but it's narrow, and so the thread kind of hangs there, right? Remember, it's a thread guide, it's not really a locking place per se. Okay, so now let's see if we can zoom in a little bit here so you can get a better view. Again, I have got indirect daylight. It's a sunny day today. We're getting into spring, and I've been waiting for light like this, and I'm hoping that this will be this will make sense for you guys. Now, let me zoom back out so we can take the next step. We're not ready for the take-up arm that you see here. That's not what we're doing at the moment. And let's come up again. Now I'm going to angle down a bit, so bear with me. Now, on the front of the machine, you don't see it in this view, are the tension dial. That's the dial, it's a numbered dial, and you adjust it depending on how much or little thread tension you want. And many of you are used to these. In many of those, in most sewing machines, including virtually all Singers, the thread passes through tension discs where your dial, whether it's numbered or not, is located. And you can actually see you're increasing the tension, and it's applying pressure to the tension discs, which is what your thread is moving through. Well, in the White rotary models and the other rotary models that this covers, it works a little differently. The dial is on the front, and you adjust it when you're facing the machine, but the actual tension is controlled over here on the side. Now notice I've got the thread, and it's coming all the way down. Now let's see if we can get the angle even better here. I'm trying to give you folks as much of a close-up as I can. Okay, let's see. There we go. Okay. Now, okay, I took a little time to adjust this. This is one of the most difficult things to see and to film is when you're coming down on one of these rotary machines and getting ready to go through the check spring. The manuals are, they're pictures, and I really wanted to get as clear an image as I could for you all, because I have gone online looking for help with this when I first started working on rotaries, and I faced the same thing. I was watching someone, but it was very tough to see. If you get the right amount of light, I think it's possible. So I'm going to tap the camera here and get it to zoom in a little bit more. Now, let's notice that I'm going to hold my fingers, let's see if you can see this, above. I'm just going to kind of hold on to the thread because I don't want it to come all the way off the thread spool. So you're going to come straight down off of that first guide at the top, okay? And you are to the left of this little thread guide here, okay? Not on the right side, because if you come on the right, it's not going to hit the check spring properly. So you're going to come straight down on the left, and as you come around, you're going to come behind this big sort of that curved shape there. And as soon as you do, you are going to be basically the machine is designed so that when you pull the thread through here, you have now picked up on the check spring. Now let's see if you guys. I don't know if you can see it. It's very small, and it sits right here behind this thread, this large thread guide. I'm going to zoom in even closer, see if this is going to be helpful for you. So let me pull up on the thread again, and let's see. All right. Look closely, folks, where the thread comes down, and it makes a sort of a curve there if it loops down and comes up. Now watch when I pull up on it. Do you see this little piece moving? That's your check spring, okay? Then that's where you want your thread to come. Now we have our take-up lever. That's going to be our next point. So now the thread's going to go back up. I'm going to zoom back out here and change. I want to be able to zoom in so you all can see it. So you can't see the whole machine at one time, but that's okay. We're doing this step by step. Now, I'm going to come up. And I'm going to thread. Some of you will have a take-up arm that has a little slit, and you can simply pull it down into the take-up arm hole. This one I just threaded directly through, but either way is fine. Remember, these machines were in production for decades, and they would make slight running changes, and we'll see that when I talk about the bobbin case. Now, we are getting ready to, let's zoom back out a bit. Now, I'm going to be coming back down, so we're going up, down, up, down. You'll notice a lot of thread patterns tend to have double curves, and they turn back on themselves. It's simply a way that they were engineering the tension of the thread itself. Now, I'm going to move the camera once more to get us down to one of the last thread points. Okay, so now we have come back down off of the take-up arm. Remember, now we're coming back downwards. We're going this way, back down toward the bed of the machine. Now, look over here. If you look right there, you're going to see yet another thread guide. And sometimes if you look closely and you see enough machines, you'll start to kind of know what a thread guide looks like. Sometimes they look like little pigtails or curlicues. They're kind of places where you start to see a gap between little pieces of metal that kind of stick out from the machine. And on this particular one, I'm going to come around to the front. And I'm laying the thread right here, okay? And I'm going to go in the front, and sure enough, now I have the thread behind there. Hey, does it come out? Of course it does, right? And if you just reach over, and again, if you're facing the machine, you might see that a little more easily. And look at that. And that's the last thread guide before, of course, we're going to put this, and this machine, like many vintage sewing machines, threads from the left towards the right of the machine, or away from us, since we are currently on the left side. and of course you will thread your needle, and you will have, your needle or your top thread ready to go. And remember, just as I've mentioned to you all with, let's zoom back just a bit. As I mentioned to you all, when it comes to any sewing machine, notice I had the foot up. When you put the foot down, it applies pressure to whatever thread tension you have above. That's getting you ready to sew. But when you're threading your machine, make sure you lift the presser foot up. Okay, that takes the pressure off of the tension discs, because when you thread a machine, you don't want to thread it with the tension discs applying pressure, because that'll throw off your thread tension and it can screw up your stitching, particularly when you start. And that is essentially how you thread this machine. Now, if you have a Dressmaster, if you have a Kenmore, they may be slight, there are variations on this theme, but overall, you are looking at how these are commonly threaded. Sometimes you'll see the tension dial over here on the side. But again, there are times when it's helpful to see this on a video in addition to the manual. I always recommend people have manuals and use them. And anyway, so that is how you get your rotary machine threaded. And I believe it's a little easier to actually see when you see it from the back side coming down, and then of course on the side. So that's how you thread that. I'm actually going to, the next video I'll do has to do with the bobbin case. It's a fairly short video, but the bobbin cases are another area where people are not always sure how to thread them, but I'll put that in there for you. I hope this was helpful. I have been waiting for spring, for the longer days of sunlight, so that I could try to get the right lighting on this. It's not difficult to demonstrate as long as you can zoom in and get good lighting. Electric light is not the best. If I tried to do this at night, I wasn't sure if it would take off, but natural lighting is one of the best. And in the next video, I'm going to show you, again, I'll talk about threading the bobbin, and I think I may also talk about installing the feet. Some of you have asked me about this. And it's actually a great design. The White Company was, this particular design, it was in production for many decades for a reason. It was tough, it was reliable, and they sold an awful lot of machines until technology moved on. So anyway, guys, I so appreciate you watching, and if you would like, you can subscribe to the channel, and then you can even click on the little bell, and it will send you a little notice when a new video has been posted. I try to post every day, but that doesn't always happen. But anyway, I so appreciate you watching, and if this was helpful or if you have other questions, please leave them in the comment sections down below. Thank you.